Hey y'all, Gino back for one more War of the Ring puzzle. So I'm starting in the middle of the game. It was quite the game. It was another one of these games where the Fellowship was hunted viciously, and I rested in Minas Tirith for 2 turns, reducing my corruption. My opponent has drawn every card in the character deck except for one, and has 3 cards left. So they've played nearly every card in the character deck, and I've defended valiantly. You'll notice my force pool lacks 2 nations. Both the elves and Gondor have been completely mustered and no longer have any troops in their force pools. Lorien was a full stack. Minas Tirith was more than a full stack. I've been whittled down, but Shadow technically only has 4 points. However, the Fellowship isn't doing super well. My opponent, very, very interestingly, the Fellowship, while in Minas Tirith, my opponent played some of the red tiles as combat effects in order to claim Minas Tirith. It was a close battle. And the hunt pool is actually looking all right. Yes, there's lots of eyes, but I believe I can take it slow. We're going to be going over this game. There is one big mistake that I make in this game, and I would love if you guys could spot it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on this War of the Ring puzzle. And I guess the puzzle here is, what is the major mistake that I make in this game? I start by moving. Seems reasonable. I get hit with an eye, which is unfortunate, which causes me to reveal. My opponent plays Breaking of the Fellowship, which deals 1 damage to me. So I'm perilously close. I do believe that, if I'm correct, the only damaging character card that's left is Candles and Corpses. However, I was unsure at the time, and I decided to spend a ring to hide. Perhaps a mistake, perhaps not a mistake. Giving my opponent a ring this turn does feel bad. However, I did want to make sure if they did have any damaging character cards to stay hidden so that I couldn't suffer more corruption. I have drawn Bilbo's Song, and unfortunately I was holding 3 int cards and Bilbo's Song, and Warm with Sorrow of Toil, or Warm with Sorrow and Toil triggered, and it caused me to discard Bilbo's Song. So very unfortunate there. Obviously it would have been really great. Horn of Gondor is completely useless. There is still Athelos in the deck. I believe there is another way as well. So I'm trying to move as slow as possible, trying to draw these cards. My opponent has barely any tools left to hurt the Fellowship. My opponent plays On They Went, the only other red card that they have. I still have 1 more blue tile left to play. They play Shadow is Moving. The Orcs Multiplying again. I think that Shadow is Moving was good as well. It does prevent Path of the Wozes, which is a real concern, seeing as Rohan is close to war. Start mustering the north down. I think that seems reasonable. It does seem like my opponent is planning on attacking in the north. I could have mustered Rohan down as well. There seems to be 2 targets, perhaps one in Erebor, perhaps one in Helm's Deep. I'm not fearing Helm's Deep because I have lots of ints. I also do have a scouts to go ahead and retreat from Fords of Isen. I'm feeling kind of comfortable. My opponent is also feeling a little bit comfortable too, seeing the Fellowship is just so high in corruption. Scout from Dale. Perhaps I don't need to. I draw another card. I'm looking for character cards to go ahead and heal the Fellowship. Move Rohan down. So perhaps going back and forth between the north and Rohan wasn't a good move. Perhaps moving Rohan down was actually the correct choice instead of moving the north down. I don't think it was major. My opponent starts moving towards the rest of the north and Rohan, and I get my dice. So I get there and back again. Again, very useless. Riders of Theoden. Nice. So another very, very powerful Rohan defense. I'm hoping my opponent attacks in Rohan. I discard Brave Stand. Not very useful, and there and back again, not very useful. The only companion that I legitimately have out, I think, is like Pippin, Mary, which was a very fun move earlier in the game. Let's see if it gets used. My opponent gets an okay roll. You would expect to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attacks, including one of these musters, and instead they get 1, 2, 3, 4, and a lot of Palantirs. I get a great move, especially against one eye, so I am able to move twice this turn. I technically could be able to dunk this turn. However, dunking this turn would mean that I would need to hit one of these blue tiles, basically. Perhaps I could just hit 3 of these non-blue tiles. There's a chance. I need to avoid the eyes. I need to avoid the red tiles. So you can think what you would do in my situation here. I think I actually made some good moves here. I first used the Will of the West to muster. I think that I'm only going to be moving once or twice, so I may as well use this Will of the West to do something else that's useful. My opponent takes north. It seems like they are going northwards. I pass. My opponent plays Isildur's Bane, which, there were a couple of tiles here that could have really hurt. The 3 and any of these 2s would have been really sucky. The 1 would be fine. It would just cause me to reveal. It's not a massive problem. This was one of the better tiles for Isildur's Bane to hit. I don't blame my opponent for playing it. It's a great chance. The 3 could just win you the game immediately. Yeah. My opponent starts mustering an Umbar. You might sort of notice that my Dol Amroth is completely undefended. I've moved all of my guys out to Lamedon for a chance to retake Pelargir if necessary. It's an awkward situation for me. My opponent attacks in Lorien. I play Heroic Death just in case. They do not hit, which is great. Another die. There's no way they can win this turn. Not even close. I draw. I want to draw as many character cards as possible so that I can have as safe a Mordor passage as possible. I draw Mithril Coat Instinct, which is wonderful. So that increases my odds of winning quite a lot. And it attacks Lorien. That one elf finally dies. The Mithril Coat and Sting. I've decided only to move once this turn. It plays New Power is Rising. I saw this threat in Umbar, but I thought to myself, if they do decide to play Corsairs of Umbar with just one elite, I could just retake it. And Corsairs of Umbar is used, and I feel like Dol Amroth would be much safer. I muster one more Rohan elite. My opponent musters another one in Dol Amroth, which I'm fine with. Again, they can't take it in one turn. Next time I can immediately retreat. I move. I get an eye, which is totally fine. A 1 reveal. I mean, obviously not ideal. I would have probably preferred, I guess, any of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tiles. Though this would have just been a 1 reveal as well. So I really would have only preferred 5 tiles. So 50-50 on getting a tile that I would have wanted and not. And then I didn't draw red, which was great. But I would have mithrilled if it were a red. Though if it were the red eye, maybe I wouldn't have mithrilled because there was just 1. And my opponent finally plays Candles and Corpses, which is a heart-wrenching play. I guess there's all of them need to be, or I guess 2 of them need to be 6s in order to win. It didn't happen, so. I draw a blue tile, which is great. Elven Rope is phenomenal in this situation. My opponent rolls 2 eyes, which is very dangerous. I don't want to hit an eye. And I roll a lot of musters and a Will of the West. I can move twice. There is a chance that I would just win. I no longer have any rings, so I guess I can't completely win this turn. But I do want to be moving at least once this turn. So I decide to use my Will of the West initially to make this move back to Dol Amroth, which I think is reasonable. I decide to move to my army and troll shawls up into Enmoors to threaten a military victory. I could go ahead and take Mount Gundabad. There's a chance. There are other places that I could perhaps get to eventually. I don't know if you guys saw it, but that happened to be a little bit of a mistake. So I think it was late. You can tell this is turn 14 of the game, so I'm cutting myself a little bit of slack. But if you guys noticed, Troll Shawls needed to get back to Rivendell this turn. I don't know why I didn't look at my opponent's dice. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attacks. They can attack anywhere. Perhaps I should have even worried about Fords of Isen needing to move into Helm's Deep this turn. Though I had so many good cards, Eomer and Riders of Theoden, that I probably still would have been fine if they kind of like reached all the way around. I definitely needed to defend Rivendell. They perhaps could have just gone all the way to the Grey Havens, like moved here, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, attack Grey Havens with a big force. I don't know why I did this. Now they're able to basically put Rivendell under siege this turn with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 normals with a 1 move, 2 move, 3 move, or they could use a half move here and get it under siege with 8. So half move, 1 move, half move, Rivendell under siege, and take it. So this is a massive blunder. If I didn't do this, I would be in a situation where I've got every single stronghold that they could take super well defended. They could try to crack into Dol Amroth. It would be hard. And they're definitely going to be trying to crack into Erebor. They will be able to take Erebor or Woodland Realm, one of them. This is enough troops to go ahead and take it. But all of the other places, Dol Amroth and Helm's Deep, are going to be hard fights. So not my best move, but a fun little. Hopefully, I don't know. That was most of the puzzle, I guess you can say. And I'll show you what the rest of the game comes out to, and see. Let me know if you would have done anything differently if you were in my shoes, or if you were in Shadow's shoes. But it was a little bit fun. Notice my opponent sees my blunder and immediately goes towards Rivendell. I think to myself, there is one out that is beautiful, and that is a Power 2 Great. My opponent, I noticed, has no character cards. If I'm able to play a Power 2 Great, Rivendell is completely safe. So I tried to draw it with Swords of Meriador. There's a 1 in 7 chance. It would be just so sick. They would take a 1/2 move here, 1 more move to Troll Shawls. If I had had this would have been the greatest fate of the game. Unfortunately, I did not. And I do not draw it. My opponent then thinks for a little bit. They play Shadows Gather. They make sure to have a nice force for Dol Amroth. Still, it's going to be a hard battle. They play Corsairs. They move up. I move, or I hide. I take Rivendell. I play Elven Rope, making the pool even stronger. They attack Rivendell. They do take it, which they would have taken it this turn or next turn, and they could possibly get the victory. So I beef up Rohan, and my opponent goes into Dol Amroth. Fortunately, I have just awesome cards: Daylight, Confusion, Valor, if need be. And I do believe I play basically all of them. And ultimately speaking, it's a close battle. My opponent had 7 plus 2. So you're looking at something like 4 plus 7, 11 strength against 7 strength here. So technically speaking, I think I'm a little bit favored, especially because I've got such good cards. But again, even if it's a 25% chance to win now, you have to take it. Fight continues. They play Deadly Strife. The Confusion actually works super well. It prevents one of them, and my opponent only gets 2, which kind of sucks. I actually don't get a lot. I only get 3, but I do get the +1 from Confusion, and now it's looking like I am totally fine. They tried to attack one more time. I get 2, and they are unable to take it. I've got basically 1 troop left. So way too close call. Last turn, almost certainly now. There's just no way that I will be able to survive. Yes, maybe Dol Amroth will be fine. However, Erebor will certainly fall. There's just not enough. Especially because Rivendell has already fallen. It's kind of tragic. I definitely had a situation where they were forced to go into Helm's Deep, which I had such a nice, strong defense of, but I gave it up because I made this blunder in Rivendell. Okay, so I've got this move. I have as many moves as I want. You can think of what you would do on this turn. I'll let you look at the hunt pool. There's 2 terrible tiles. Eyes obviously aren't great either. Either of these eyes are pretty terrible. Both of them would kill me. I decide to draw with my first action. There's no situation, I think, where this is bad. Perhaps there is. If I were to draw the -2 from file, and then I were to draw the 3 stop, or I guess yes. So if I were to draw the -2, then I get the 3 stop, then I go again. I guess I still am fine. If I were to get the -2 and then the eye, so that would deal 3 damage to me. I would have gotten the -2, or the -1. So I would have had 1 more corruption. I could have hidden with this final Will of the West, and I could have moved again. So there is this one sort of edge case situation. However, I was really trying to draw to my outs. I was really trying to get Athelos, which would have prevented me from dying to this eye on the final step, or it would have prevented me from dying to a 2 reveal to prevent 1 corruption into a second 2. Okay. My opponent attacks, Dol Amroth, they take it, so they are totally fine. I guess technically speaking, Path of the Wozes would kind of wreck them in a sense with this Minas Tirith play. Definitely leave someone in Minas Tirith. But I don't have Path of the Wozes. I guess I didn't think about it. Plus, they're going to be taking Dol Amroth anyways. So I move. Let's see. You can kind of think about chances here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's an 80% chance that I'm going to be totally fine on this move. A little bit less than that, 75% chance. And if I'm able to avoid that, then there's a greater than 75. I guess I would need to avoid both of these on both of my redraws with Mithril Coat and Sting, which would be, it's a low chance. I think there's a good chance of me still succeeding here, but because of that crazy move that I did last time, I gave up Rivendell, and I really gave up a chance to go ahead and win the game. I honestly think my opponent I kind of threw the game at that point. I think my opponent kind of deserves to win. So move. I do draw the 3, which is just game ending, so I need to use Mithril Coat and Sting. Always negative. I do get the 2. I reveal to the 2 to go ahead and prevent the corruption. So now we're at a situation where there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, not 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiles where I would be okay, and 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles where I wouldn't. So 60% chance. Good as any. Notice that I am totally fine. My opponent has no character cards and just none to draw. So there's nothing that can harm the Fellowship anymore. I hide. My opponent puts Erebor under siege. They will certainly take Erebor this turn. There's just no doubt about that. And I move again, and I draw the red eye, which, I kind of think my opponent deserved the game, to be very frank. So, y'all, I hope this was fun. I hope you guys were able to... I'm not sure if this was fun. Maybe I should have made this even tighter and just sort of circled around this sort of one error. Again, when you're working with the Free Peoples and the opponent has tons of moves, places that you think are completely safe, like Rivendell, just aren't safe. So be perspicacious, look around the board, be observant, and make sure to defend strongholds that need defending if they're the only place that, or if they're a place that can be put under siege and your opponent has like 7 or 8 moves. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. If you did, definitely leave a like. Let me know if you would have done anything differently. Excuse me. And I look forward to seeing y'all next time.